I'm Bradley Green, and a shadow has been cast upon our society. I speak, of course, of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, like a venomous serpent, has coiled itself around our communities, injecting its poison into the minds of the ignorant and the misguided. It manifests in various forms of the subtle prejudice to overt acts of violence. We have seen it in the desecration of synagogues and the defacement of Jewish cemeteries, and in the alarming increase of verbal and physical attacks against Jewish individuals. Today I'll be sitting down with Ty Ilyan and Max Hobbs, who are two members of different congregations that have experienced this form of social injustice firsthand. I hope we can all gather something important from these interviews. Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, my name is Max Hobbs. I'm a student at Kennesaw State University, and I'm also a Jew.
Hey, I'm Amitai Elan. I just graduated from Kennesaw and work at NASDAQ now, and I'm also Jewish.
Nice, nice. In y'all's opinion, how has the advent of technology and the rise of social media added to the rise of anti Semitism?
Well, I think that social media kind of gives people a platform and a way to connect with a lot of people very quickly that share similar beliefs. And so that can be dangerous when it comes to hateful messages, whether it be anti Semitism or discrimination as a whole. And I think people just have a faster, easier, better way to reach out to each other and, share similar ideas that are hurtful or helpful, pros and cons.
Right? Kind of adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, like Max said, I think just it allows people to connect. Where before maybe it was you need to be in the same area to, you know, have some kind of protest or some kind of violent act or organize. Now it seems like it's a lot easier for them to organize because you could, have a specific date and people from all different areas can come together and then, have some kind of anti-Semitic protest or, they kind of get a lot more strength in numbers since, they don't all need to be in the same area now. They can be spread out but can all, come together and support each other online and stuff and just kind of spread that propaganda. And on top of that, I think a lot of people just getting information from social media also hurts because, people can post whatever they want and it doesn't need to be factual or evident based. And then that can lead to anti-Semitism or other hates too because it's just false information that, makes people upset and they're like, oh yeah,
Right.
and just kind of propaganda.
And I feel like everybody's looking for somebody to blame, so, you know,
Since the dawn of time, it's been the Jews.
yeah. Since the dawn of time. Do you think that social media might have played a factor in the recent spark in anti-Semitism, like so far as the recent Nazi protests that happened at, was it East Cobb and Marietta? Macon. East Cobb and Macon.
Um, I guess I can start this one off. Um, I mean, yeah, as we stated in the previous question, I guess since people are able to reach out to each other so quickly and, communicate so quickly, I mean, obviously we've had the internet for the last 20, 30 years, and so people have been able to reach each other quicker than snail mail. Back in the day, you kind of had to live with a bunch of people that shared your same values, like the Klan. People would come together and unite over that. But now, no matter how far away you are from someone or no matter how far away you are from someone, you can just send them an email or text them or, send them something on Instagram and be like, hey, we're meeting here. So I think it could definitely help. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think it probably played a role. I know they're called like the Goyim Defense League was the people who did those two like protests/attacks. And I know in Macon, which is where I'm from, so that was like my area, my synagogue, and talked to my rabbi and stuff about it. So I'm sure we'll get to this later, but the protest itself, like even like having Nazi flags outside a synagogue, isn't technically illegal, as long as they're not on private space, regardless of how hate speech like that may seem, or how just you would think that would just not be allowed in some capacity. Um, and then even it sounds like they like hung a figure dressed like a Jew as well, and then even like left like bags around the area with various stuff. Some people said there was rat poisoning in it even, but they ended up getting the main guy on something. But then he just got out on bail and went up to East Cobb the next day with the same group. And so I think even that just like making the news, where some people might react where it's like, oh my God, like what happened? Other people who agree with it are like, oh, this group exists. Like I can maybe connect with them and like can just like look them up and like probably like find their Instagram and then like connect with them. And it's really easy for them to gain a following now like that. And some of the points of those protests are even to just like build up their following and, have stronger events and stuff like that and encourage people. And, even then, like, you look them up and, like, check out their propaganda and stuff. So I think it definitely adds a lot of fuel to the fire.
In y'all's opinions, what do you think governments and organizations and possibly individuals could do to combat anti-Semitism?
I think maybe getting a little stricter with, what's legal and not legal around, some of those protests. Like, I think, like, just getting a lot stricter on hate speech and, the repercussions of that. Stricter on, like, the penalties. Like, the fact that, that guy could get arrested one day for that and then go and do the same thing the next day because he's on bail is, like, that's insane. So I think getting stricter around like what his bail should have been, and like I'd think like you just shouldn't be allowed to have Nazi flags in public, even I would say, and just consider that a hate speech and have harsher crimes around that. I think just taking the whole thing a lot more seriously, because even though technically maybe no one gets hurt, that it leads to stuff later, like some shootings we've seen before. And so it's kind of just the start of them doing that. And, it even kind of encourages shooters to do stuff like that. So I think just getting a lot stricter around that stuff and really making it so, whereas like now it's like, oh, you can just go out and like do all that stuff and maybe like you'll just go home that day and be fine. Like, if you're yelling slurs outside a place of worship, then like you go to jail, and that's that for years, something like that. Just a lot stricter.
I think we could do some sort of regulation on fake media, I guess, propaganda. Right now you can really just publish anything about anyone, which is not the best, especially for, discriminatory purposes. You can just publish anything that you say is facts and then people believe it. So I think Instagram is kind of doing a better job of like taking of fact checking posts and saying, oh, this is false, see why fact checkers like disagree, or see why this isn't the facts. So I think if we could kind of apply that towards more news outlets as well, and media in general, I guess, I think we should not regulate what is being said, but let people know that this is a reason it's not true. This is a reason, like, these aren't the facts, here are the facts, I suppose, would be
Not real.
somewhat of a fix.
I also think like on the individual level, like, you see something, say something, you know what I mean? Like, if, it starts out small, people yelling out like slurs, like you said, and stuff like that, but then it gets bigger, people start bringing Nazi flags, like this, that, and the other, and I don't know, I feel like if there was something in place where it was like, you know, you got something a little more than just a warning for like having a whole full blown Nazi flag, which is like, it's offensive to, you know, more than just Jewish people. You know, that's like also offensive to like other races. It's very discriminatory. I think that wraps up our time. I'm going to say thank you for showing up for the interview. I really appreciate that. Appreciate y'all's time.